I've been driving rideshare for 3 years. When you spend your nights picking up strangers in a crowded city, you learn to read people quickly. You know who wants to talk, who wants to sleep, and who is a little too drunk. But out in the rural suburbs at 2 a.m., the rules change. It was a Tuesday. The rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the taillights of the few cars left on the road. I was about to sign off the app and head home when a ping came through. The pickup was out by the old reservoir, a desolate, unlit stretch of road bordered by dense woods. The user's name was just a single letter, M. I almost declined it. Every instinct I had told me to keep driving toward my own warm bed. But the surge pricing was high, and I needed the money. When I pulled up to the coordinates, there was no house. No streetlights. Just a narrow gravel turnout next to the tree line. I put the car in park, keeping my foot lightly on the brake. Then, she stepped out from between the trees. She was wearing a thin, white sundress that was completely soaked and clinging to her skin. She didn't have an umbrella. She didn't even have shoes. She walked straight to the rear passenger side door, pulled it open, and slid into the back seat. The cold air that rolled in with her made the back of my neck instantly prickle with goosebumps. Heading into the city? I asked, looking at her through the rearview mirror. She didn't answer. She just sat perfectly rigid, staring straight ahead at the back of my headrest. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, and entirely hollow. I shifted into drive and pulled back onto the dark highway, the silence in the car growing heavier with every mile. 10 minutes passed. The only sound was the hum of my tires against the wet asphalt. I kept glancing up at the rearview mirror, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. There was something deeply wrong with the way she was sitting. She didn't sway when I took a sharp turn. She didn't breathe. Her chest remained perfectly, terrifyingly still. I decided to try turning on the radio just to break this suffocating quiet. I reached over and hit the power button. I winced and immediately turned the volume down. But the static didn't stop. It began to take shape. It started to sound like a frantic, rhythmic tapping. My heart plummeted into my stomach. The sound wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from the back seat. I looked up at the rearview mirror again. The woman was slowly raising her right arm. Her fingers were unnaturally long, her skin a sickly, bruised blue under the faint dashboard light. She began to tap her long, sharp fingernails directly against the glass of the passenger side window. "Hey, everything all right back there?" I choked out, my voice trembling so hard I could barely form the words. She didn't look at me, but her mouth slowly began to stretch open. Not a normal smile. Her jaw unhinged, widening further and further until her lips tore at the corners, exposing rows of small, dark, needle-like teeth. And then she spoke. It wasn't a woman's voice. It sounded like a collective, distorted frequency of 100 dying cell phones overlapping all at once. "You aren't driving me home, Lucas," the voice buzzed. "I'm driving you to mine." I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded violently across the slick road, spinning 180 degrees before slamming into a ditch. The engine sputtered and died, plunging the cabin into absolute darkness. I grabbed my phone, threw open the driver's door, and tumbled out into the freezing rain, running blindly down the empty highway without looking back. The police found my car the next morning. The back seat was completely dry, but printed clearly on the inside of the rear passenger window were 2 bloody, skeletal handprints melted directly into the glass. The second story happened to a friend of mine named Ethan. He had just moved into a cheap, brownstone apartment. The rent was suspiciously low, but as a college student surviving on ramen, He didn't care about the building's age. The first week was normal, but by the second week, the sound started. It always began around 3 a.m. A faint, frantic scratching sound coming from directly behind his bedroom wall. At first, Ethan figured it was just rats or squirrels navigating the old insulation. He bought a few traps, laid them out along the baseboards, and tried to ignore it. But the scratching didn't stay near the floor. Over the next few nights, the sound migrated upward. It moved right behind the square metal air vent. One night, the scratching stopped, like a heavy piece of meat being dragged through raw dirt. Ethan sat up in bed, shining his phone flashlight up at the vent. The light pierced through the metal grates, illuminating nothing but dust motes drifting in the dark. He sighed, turning the light off and laying back down, convincing himself his imagination was running wild. Then, a voice drifted down through the vent. "Ethan, it's so cold up here. The wood is tight. My knees are bent against my chest. Can you open the grate?" Ethan froze. His breath hitched in his throat. He lived alone on the top floor. Above his ceiling was nothing but a narrow, uninsulated crawl space that had been sealed off with concrete and heavy iron bolts decades ago. There was no way anyone, or anything, could be up there. He didn't move for hours. He lay perfectly still in the dark, watching that small metal square, listening to the wet, ragged breathing vibrating through the ductwork. The next morning, Ethan brought his landlord up to the apartment. He demanded they open the crawlspace access panel in the hallway. The landlord, an old man who looked like he had seen too much, reluctantly brought out a ladder and a heavy wrench to undo the rusted bolts of the ceiling panel. The landlord shone a powerful industrial flashlight into the pitch-black void of the crawlspace. The beam cut through the shadows, revealing a space that was barely 2 feet high. "See," the landlord grumbled, shaking his head. "Nothing up here but old pipes, kid. You're hearing things." Ethan looked closer, taking the flashlight from the old man's hand. He angled the beam toward the far corner, right above where his bedroom sat. The dust on the floorboards wasn't undisturbed. There was a clear, wide path dragged through the grime, leading directly from the deepest corner of the roof straight to the back of Ethan's bedroom air vent. And right beside the vent opening, pressed deep into the ancient dust, were hundreds of tiny, distinct human teeth marks, chewed directly into the wooden beams. The landlord went pale. Silently, he stepped down the ladder, grabbed his tools, and left the building without saying another word. Ethan packed his bags that afternoon. He didn't even care about losing his security deposit. He just wanted out. He went back up to the empty apartment one last time to make sure he hadn't left his keys behind. The rooms felt hollow, echoing his footsteps against the bare floorboards. He walked into the bedroom. The keys were sitting on the windowsill. He grabbed them, turning to leave, when he noticed something on his mattress. The air vent cover above his bed hadn't just been unbolted. It had been violently forced open from the inside, the metal slats bent completely outward like broken fingers. And lying right in the center of his bare mattress was a single, wet clump of long, black hair wrapped tightly around a small piece of old, yellowed paper. Written on the paper in dark, shaky charcoal were just 5 words. "Thanks for unlocking the door." Ethan ran out of that building and never went back. He stays in well-lit, modern hotels now, always checking the ceilings before he turns out the lights. Because he knows that once something hears you listening in the dark, it never stops looking for a way out. Lock your doors. Check your vents. And if you hear a whisper in the walls tonight, pretend you're fast asleep. Thanks for watching. Stay curious. I'll see you next time. Peace.